We're all painfully aware that Disney and Pixar are the same thing, yet Disney still feels the need to jerk itself off for 40 seconds before the movie starts.
So unlike Randy Tamaya's, I'm not the kind of guy who would criticize Jeremy for calling this a Disney movie, since Disney owns Pixar, and he is technically right. However, where I draw the line is saying that they are the same thing. Pixar are much more outside the box and tend to make their movies different every time, whereas Disney tends to make their movies a lot more formulaic. You saying they're the same thing invalidates all the incredible work people like Pete Docter, Andrew Stanton, and Lee Unkrich do all on their own.
Spotlight on adventure!
Movie steals the expositional documentary inside the actual movie motif from Citizen Kane.
Ah yes, because that's copyright infringement, and definitely something only one film in the entire world can do.
Undiscovered by science!
Science doesn't make discoveries, people do.
This was made during a time where doctors recommended cigarettes because they were healthy for you. Do you think folks would have known what you're suggesting back then? No, they were too busy dodging daily dust bowls.
This lighter-than aircraft was designed by Muntz himself and is longer than 22 Prohibition paddy wagons placed end to end.
As opposed to the normal, everyday paddy wagon, which was somehow lesser capacity and had no chance in hell of telling us what era this movie is set in.
If we assume that this movie takes place in 2009 when it came out, then it's pretty likely this opening is set in the 1930s.
Jiminy Cricket, do the locals consider Muntz the bee's knees? And how?
It sounds like Pixar's turn-of-the-century idiom generator just malfunctioned. I mean, holy mackerel, how many cockeyed phrases are these bums gonna throw at me?
Excuse me, good sir, but this is how we tended to talk back then. Just watch anything from this time period, and you'd see this is rather accurate. Don't you ask for movies to be realistic all the time, and yet when they do, that's not good enough for you? My goodness, my ex-wife is easier to please than you.
The National Explorers Society accuses Muntz of fabricating the skeleton.
Why? Because this guy doesn't know how to use a compass? Or this guy doesn't know how bones work? Or possibly because it's convenient to the plot?
Or it doesn't freaking matter, and if it did, the movie would have told you. You sin movies for giving unnecessary exposition all the time, and this would have been that too. Do you really want the movie to go into detail about this?
Adventure!
Carl conveniently overhears Ellie say this just as he walks past the dilapidated house, prompting him to find out who said it.
Narration.
If Ellie just saw the same screening of Muntz's documentary, how was she able to find this abandoned house and rig it up to play Explorer before Carl had enough time to walk past it and catch her in the middle of her narrative?
Notice how the sin started with, if Ellie just saw the same screening of Muntz's documentary. Jeremy's assuming that's what happened, despite the movie never saying that. If the movie is showing Ellie doing this right after Carl left the screening, then it's pretty obvious she would have seen an earlier screening.
What's wrong? Can't you talk?
Nope, and he won't be able to for 60 years.
Or not until tonight, considering the scene that plays right before the famous montage. Also, Jeremy yells at the screen cliche.
Carl's balloon, that Ellie now inexplicably possesses, still has enough helium in it to lift a large stick just high enough into the air to go into Carl's room, and by some kind of dog-talking level witchcraft is able to change directions as soon as it reaches Carl's bedroom window.
Even more narration. Also, what do you mean by Ellie inexplicably possessing the balloon? Of course she would have found a way to grab it after she caused Carl's injury. I mean, wouldn't that be the right thing to do?
Cross it! Cross your heart!
Behind every great man is a woman pointing and yelling at him to make unkeepable promises.
That's sexist.
Wow.
Movie completely blows past.
Hold up, you just showed that scene of Carl talking 60 years before you said he was able to. Doesn't this ruin that joke you made 3 sins ago?
Movie completely blows past Ellie dropping her tomboy persona and how this couple managed to stay in love during their awkward high school years and college years based on their mutual respect of Charles Muntz.
So, why would we need to see all of that? It's not necessary to the story. All we need to see is them getting married and living a happy life together, which sets up the tearjerker at the very end of the film. You might as well ask if Carl played sports or if Ellie was in love with another guy for a minute. It's just as relevant.
Movie takes place in an alternate universe where superhelium exists, but adoption apparently doesn't.
What do these two things have to do with each other?
Weren't quite ready to explain miscarriages to your children? Well, now you have to.
Are you saying that we shouldn't tell children that miscarriages can happen? I don't know about you, but that's like deciding to not explain to them what death is. We shouldn't be so protective of kids to not tell them crap like this happens, because then they won't be prepared for it when they get older.
Also, when we actually go to Paradise Falls later in the film, we see that it's still completely remote and uninhabited. How do they plan on actually getting there? Are they saving up for their own Zeppelin?
Sure, why not? Or they could just fly there with a commercial airline. I mean, we see Carl getting passports towards the end of this montage, so that's clearly an option.
Also, Paradise Falls is based on a real place in Venezuela called Climax National Park, and if we make believe that's the actual Paradise Falls, I bet it would be challenging for them to claim residence in a Venezuelan national park.
But you just said that Paradise Falls is completely remote and uninhabited, so it's not a national park. Just because it was based on one doesn't mean it actually is. Besides, I think the better make-believe is to assume the Paradise Falls is somewhere else in South America and not the same place as Canaima National Park.
And then suddenly, without any warning, Pixar sends you into a montage that is both full of sadness and joy and more sadness, without a word of dialogue spoken. It's like one of those great Pixar shorts that precede all of the full-length features. And I think I just cried a little. It's downright incredible, and we're removing 5 sins for its brilliance.
Agreed.
I believe I made my position to your boss quite clear.
You poured prune juice in his gas tank.
I find this unlikely. This assumes the boss drives a car that doesn't have one of those spring-loaded gas doors that you'd have to actually break into the car to open. Or the boss just leaves his car unlocked all day at a construction site. Also, this old man who uses a cane somehow managed to get to the car without being seen, carrying a funnel and some prune juice. And how did they even figure out it was prune juice? Unless they saw him and let him do it, or Carl told them, or they ran it to a lab. And why didn't the boss press charges?
What's wrong with having a gas door that doesn't need to be open from the inside of a car? Is there any reason why the boss couldn't have that? However, the rest of the sin is fair, especially that last thing with why the boss didn't press charges. I won't change the sin count though, so let's move on.
He's out to get your house!
John Ratzenberger is acting like this is new information, even though he said earlier,
My boss will be happy to take this whole place off your hands.
But he's not acting like it's new. He's simply reminding Carl about this. What about his tone of voice imply what you're saying?
Russell's persistence leads me to believe he thinks Carl is the only old person in this town.
Or he may have been the most available option.
Earlier, we're told that Carl,
Poured prune juice in his gas tank.
and that didn't seem to create any issues, but after Carl assaults this worker, he's forced to sell his house and move into an old folks' home. I understand that assault is a worse crime than damage of personal property, but the latter is still a crime, and that seemingly went completely unpunished.
You already mentioned the fact that Carl somehow wasn't punished for the prune juice thing, so that's a sin for double dipping.
And are we really expected to believe that Carl isn't physically fit enough to walk down the stairs in his own house, but can climb all over the roof to tie those balloons and set up a steering mechanism?
Older folks can't have strength in certain areas and harder time moving as well.
There's no amount of balloons this movie could animate that would convince me balloons could rip a house from its foundation and all its connected utilities.
You realize this is a cartoon, right? It's an intentionally unrealistic film that has ridiculous stuff like this happen. Suspend your disbelief and move on.
Also, numerous military and police would have been called when they heard the reports of a flying house using balloons. But fortunately for Carl, this took place during Taco Tuesday, and no one called or cared.
Ah, yes, that makes sense. 911, what's your emergency? Carl Frederickson just tied a bazillion balloons to his house and flew away. Oh, really? Of course we're willing to believe that completely plausible story and not look at you as a complete moron who is probably just drunk. We'll send some police and military after him right away.
Whoa, is this how you steer your house?
You'd think, but Carl has done zero steering since he got in the air. And it's totally, absolutely amazing he hasn't checked to see if he needs to dodge aircraft or tall buildings. But if you train these balloons well, they know where to go.
Says Carl has done zero steering, even though he literally showed him doing that in the last sin I covered.
See? Cumulonimbus.
Wow, good thing Russell is impossibly here, so he could warn Carl about the clouds. If not, Carl would have just been sleeping in his chair when the storm came in and movie over. At least we would have had the montage.
No. Carl would have definitely been woken up by the storm. I mean, I know it's possible for people to sleep through them, but Carl is literally in the sky and super close to the clouds. You're telling me that wouldn't have woken him up? And even if they didn't, the storm definitely would have done that, considering the house moves around so much that it causes everything to fall over.
Whew, I thought you were dead.
So I piloted this house all the way to South America anyway.
Maybe because he hoped that he was still alive?
You'd think that a 50-ton kite wouldn't allow a kid and an old man to maintain their position, but you'd be wrong.
2 words. Cartoon physics.
Not only do they drop out of the f***ing sky right on top of the place where Carl and Ellie always wanted to go, but they just so happen to be adjacent to the vista that's painted above their fireplace. The same angle and everything.
I mean, Russell used the GPS to get to South America, but if you're talking about arriving in this specific spot, so what? Isn't it also a coincidence that Carl and Ellie just happened to both be huge Charles Muntz fans when they met as kids?
I came all this way just to get stuck at the wrong end of this rock pile?
Talk about crotchety. Carl accidentally flies his house hundreds of miles and ends up just a few short miles of where he wants to be, and he's still pissed? He should probably just settle and plop his house right here and begin starving to death. At least they could look at the waterfall while they died.
Carl didn't accidentally fly here. What are you talking about? But more importantly, you're forgetting that he's still clinging onto Ellie, and her wish was to put their house right next to the waterfall. He believes he'd be disappointing her dying wish if he didn't fulfill that. So while I agree that he's overreacting, his motivation and reasoning is understandable.
After all, we weigh it down.
How? Plot convenient physics?
Close, but it's actually cartoon physics. If you had just accepted that, these videos would be shorter.
How the f did they get down here? In the last scene, they were walking along a cliff where there were no trees, but now it looks like they're walking through the thick jungle at the bottom of the cliffs. Did they cut the scene where Russell and Carl decide to take the physically impossible route?
No, they didn't. In this wide shot, you can see a bunch of trees right here that's on their way to Paradise Falls. They are simply walking through them.
Russell, if you don't hurry up, the tigers will eat you.
There's no tigers in South America. Zoology.
Yeah, so because there aren't tigers per se, let's just stop in the middle of the South American jungle. Because no tigers equals no other kinds of animals that can kill you.
That is not what the movie is saying at all.
Tracks? Snipe.
Even though Russell still has his zoology badge, he still thinks this pterodactyl-sized footprint was left behind by a snipe.
Well, he's a kid. Maybe he just assumed this was a bigger than normal snipe.
I found the snipe.
I guess it can be forgiven that Russell, as a kid, doesn't know what a snipe looks like, but I'm kind of curious as to why he didn't research what snipes look like, considering that he knew that tiger fact about South America and looks to be a dutiful wilderness explorer. I mean, he should have known they don't exist after the first day.
But wait, if you're willing to accept that he doesn't know what a snipe looks like, then why did you send him for believing those footprints belong to one? Also, you criticizing someone for not doing research is precious, considering you didn't even know that Princess Rosalina was the protector of the cosmos. Oh, and not knowing how to pronounce her name, too.
Also, why does this kid even think the snipe came with them on this journey in the first place? Wasn't Russell under and inside the house during this trip to South America? I'm fine with this misidentified snipe for humor and story purposes, just not logic purposes.
Again, he's a kid. He could just assume that maybe the snipe climbed up on the roof or something, and now it makes sense to him. I mean, do you know how easily children are willing to believe Santa Claus exists, despite how ridiculous that is?
Mr. Fredrickson is nice.
Kevin, a made-up animal that is indigenous to South America, has a keen understanding of the English language.
Notice how Jeremy flat out admits that Kevin is a made-up animal, and yet still questions how she can understand English.
Oh hey, now they're back up on top of the cliff. You'd think since they have access to some kind of wormhole, they'd just use it to magically go to the other side of the cliff, instead of just bouncing from the top to the bottom. But here we are.
Go back to that wide shot. You can see some areas are covered in trees, while others aren't. They very likely went through here, and are now currently right here.
Yo estoy de acuerdo contigo. I use that collar. Watashi wa hanashima. To talk with. I would be happy if you...
Doug's collar is programmed with Spanish, a Southern accent, and Japanese. You know, the three main languages.
Ah yes, because you only heard 3 other languages, that means the collar only has 3 languages altogether.
Have you seen a bird? I want to find one, and I've been on the scent. I'm a great tracker.
So does this collar give these dogs a basic level of human intelligence too? Or is this movie suggesting that dogs have the capacity to think just like we do, but are unable to express themselves because they don't have human vocal cords?
I'm gonna go with the latter and ask, why is that a sin? This is already an unrealistic world where balloons lift the house into the sky, giant birds exist, and dogs have translator collars. If we're willing to accept this, then surely we can accept that dogs are intelligent in this world.
Also, if I put this collar on a cow or a chicken, would they be able to speak in the same way? Would that mean that all animals are secretly just as intelligent as we are, but are unable to express themselves? I just became a vegan.
Yeah, exactly. There was actually a Doug Day short on Disney Plus that showed exactly that when Russell put some of those collars on a squirrel and a bird. And again, I have to ask, why is that a sin? How is this something wrong with Up?
Come in, Doug.
Charles Muntz was able to invent talking dog collars and video chat using technology from the 1940s.
Jeez, I feel like I'm just gonna copy the judge who was copying Birdman here with all this cartoon physics questioning, but I'm not gonna do that.
I think that did the trick.
Hi, Master.
Yep, I'm gonna sin the old pastime of a cartoon character and possibly transporting ahead of the other characters. It's what we do, unfortunately.
Ah, screw it. This isn't our reality.
Whoever gave Russell the tent building patch that I'm sure he has will hopefully be disbarred from the Wilderness Explorer community.
But he doesn't have that patch. He literally admits that he's never even made a tent before right after this.
Can I tell you a secret?
No.
Alright, here it goes. I never actually built a tent before. There, I said it. Cross your heart.
Carl's surprised that Russell says this, like it was something he and Ellie made up on their own, and not something that people have said for decades.
No, this isn't a surprised reaction. This is Carl having flashbacks to when Ellie said it, which pulled on his emotions. Since he believes he broke Ellie's promise, he now decides he can't repeat that same mistake with Russell.
Muntz has been able to maintain a dog army for the past 70 years or so, with presumably very little food and no female dogs.
You realize that they're living in the wilderness, right? A place that has essentially an infinite supply of food and dogs.
Are you Charles Muntz? Yes.
If he's actually Charles Muntz, that would mean that he's at least 15 to 20 years older than Carl. I imagine Carl is in his late 70s, which would put Charles well into his 90s. Which isn't impossible, but I imagine it would be hard to maintain your health with just a bunch of dogs, a finite amount of food, and no doctors. I mean, he's never even had a prostate exam.
So you say it would be hard to maintain all of that, but that doesn't mean it'd be impossible. And again, there's an infinite supply of food that Muntz could eat while he's out in the middle of the wilderness. Do you think he can't survive on random animals and vegetables that he could have hunted for? Or heck, considering he later mentions that many explorers came over and it's heavily implied that he killed them, maybe he stole their food while he was at it. Plus, he's always inside the blimp while the dogs do all the hunting. Why would he need doctors, except maybe dentists?
Muntz found a cave large enough to fit his blimp.
Yeah, so?
Either that's a 70-year-old frozen hot dog, or he's making his own hot dogs out of the local squirrels. There's also the dog army.
Oh, don't you dare suggest that, or I'm gonna have John Wick come after you. But also, it's more likely that he's making his own hot dogs with the squirrels. And why would that be a sin if so?
More often I get thieves come to steal what's rightfully mine.
You do? You mean there are actual people out there making trips to remote parts of South America to steal your
No, that's not what he's talking about. If you let the scene play a little longer, you would hear Muntz talk about how bandits tried to take Kevin before he could, and since Muntz believes that Kevin belongs to him, he calls that stealing.
And here they come, these bandits, and think the bird is theirs to take. But they soon find that this mountain is a very dangerous place. Oh, I've spent a lifetime tracking it.
And Carl and Russell ran into it within minutes of arriving at Paradise Falls.
Minutes? I'd say it was more like hours. Also, Russell had chocolate, which attracts Kevin, and Muntz didn't know that.
We haven't even had dessert yet.
None of you have even had dinner yet.
Jeremy yells at the screen cliche.
Doghelm scream.
I think your editor played the wrong clip there. This is the part with Wilhelm scream.
So they decided to get Kevin back to her home, but they decided to lug the house with them? But why? Couldn't you just tie this thing somewhere? Then you wouldn't have to haul it back either.
But Kevin was injured by Alpha to the point where she can't walk. They currently have her resting on the house's porch, which is how they're transporting her. How else do you expect to carry a big-ass bird like this?
Even with all their treacherous detours, they still made it to the falls side of the cliff, just as the balloons ran out of lift.
Narration.
On some of these pictures, Carl flips through an Ellie's scrapbook.
Okay, I honestly don't care what you're about to say next. Setting this scene, this moment is almost as heart-wrenching and emotional as Ellie's death.
An old man who needs a machine to go down the stairs is able to throw all his furniture out the front door. Russell has Superman flight powers with a leaf blower where he's able to will himself forward, even though the leaf blower only blows at one speed.
How do you know it only has one speed?
Well, if you're here, Fredrickson can't be far behind.
Yeah, because you totally figured out that he found a way to make his house fly again, even though he's been hauling it around for the last couple days.
I mean, he did, didn't he?
Carl slings a hose and gets the sprayer to grab onto the cargo door on the first try. Then he ziplines down it like it's second nature.
Even more narration. Also, the sin count going up is delayed a little.
Second nature. Okay, I've been pretty forgiving of Carl's super old person abilities.
No, you haven't. You just sinned him for being able to do certain things despite needing a chair to go downstairs twice.
Bad guy falling to his death because showing him die any other way would be too gruesome for a kid's movie cliche.
Calling up a kid's movie, even though it is a family movie. I mean, this movie was nominated for Best Picture, and I don't think the Academy nominates kids' films.
Man, Russell's mom was super okay with her son being gone for 3 or 4 days, and continuing to let Russell see the man the courts say is a menace to society, and is responsible for her kid being gone in the first place.
How do you know that? Okay, so Dr. Sam and Hopper has created this hopping technology, and we see her board and shows that she's also working on dog translating collars. This means that Charles Muntz must have left Paradise Falls once they found out about them and stolen them. Plus, that board also has...
I'm gonna have to stop you right there, Captain. If Dr. Sam invents the talking dog collars after Hopper's, which clearly takes place in the 2020s due to the presence of Face ID smartphones, then Muntz couldn't have gotten them because he would already be dead. Since, given his and Carl's ages in Up's present setting, and the time period of the opening scene, that movie can't possibly take place after Hopper's.
Ah, shoot, you're right.